Hello and welcome, guys. We're here. We're on. We're just waiting for Samuel to jump on. I don't know if this is some sort of power play for more pay or whatever it is from him. But let's bust that union up of mathematicians, if that is the case. All right. So I'm just going to start answering a few of the questions we're talking about. Exclusively, we're going to talk about Usman versus KHAMZAT. Nathan Gorman says, if KHAMZAT does get Usman down to the ground, will it be one-way traffic for KHAMZAT, considering the difference in jiu-jitsu between the two guys? No, because I don't think that that's exactly what's going to happen. If KHAMZAT is able to wrestle KAMARU down to the ground, KAMARU's background is in folk style and freestyle wrestling. It'll be hard. It'll be hard to get him down because I do believe that KAMARU will engage back in the wrestling. It's not going to be a question of like just trying to sprawl and get away. KAMARU has a lot. He's got a lot of depth in his wrestling. You know, he wrestled, I believe, at the university games. He wrestled. He had aspirations to be an Olympian in Olympic freestyle wrestling, and he also wrestled very well at collegiate level, which is folk style, which is rewards escapes and getting up and getting back to your feet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So as in NCAA Division II wrestling, he was a gold medalist at 174 pounds. In 2010, in 2009, he was a silver medalist. In 2008, he was a bronze medalist. So he's a very accomplished wrestler in his own right. And that more refers to the size of the school as opposed to how good of a wrestler he was. So he was high level wrestler. And he was also, I know that he had aspirations to go to the Olympics and that. So it's not going to be one-way traffic even as far as getting him down. Just give me 1 second. We're just going to add Samuel. Sam, can you hear us?
Hello, sir. How you doing?
How are you, mate? We're just speaking about the power play that you did there, where you just tried to get more money out of us by, turning up late and just showing your power, flexing your muscle. So, yeah, so here is Sam, people. Or just answering a few of these questions first, and we'll kick on from there, Sammy. So that's what I think with that. I don't think it'll be necessarily that. I don't think the jiu-jitsu is going to come into it right off the bat, because I think KAMARU is very skilled at being able to get back to his feet, and he'll wrestle back. He will wrestle back. He's not going to just defend the takedown. He's going to wrestle back, and he's going to try and put KHAMZAT on his back. So I do think we're going to see a wrestling exchange in this. Many wrestling exchanges, as opposed to the wrestling exchanges that occurred, or lack of wrestling exchanges that occurred between Colby and KAMARU. Nathan says, no, John Wayne says, considering KAMARU is taking this fight on 10 days' notice, do you expect KAMARU to be aggressive, seeking to KO KHAMZAT, or will he be overwhelmed by KHAMZAT's aggressive presence? I can't speculate as to what they're going to feel on the day, but I don't think any of that stuff's going to really bother Usman as far as like the aggressive presence or whatnot. He's the guy's like arguably the best welterweight champion ever. Maybe, him, GSP, like he's not going to be overwhelmed by the aggressive presence of KHAMZAT. But I think there is pressure on KHAMZAT to get this win. I don't think if he just beats him, even if he doesn't finish him, I still think it's a massive win. Like KAMARU was, held the belt up until not very long ago. It's not like he was a champion 6 years ago or something. Pepguard says, KHAMZAT rarely moves his head out of the center range. Could this be his biggest downfall, not only in this match, but future matches versus strikers in this division? I think it could be a problem in this match. I think because KAMARU does hit hard. He's a little bit methodical, mechanical rather, with his striking. I've always felt about KAMARU. But the big thing that I think he'll have against some of the other strikers in the division is that he can always go to his wrestling, whereas KAMARU is a guy that has wrestling that maybe it's not as good or maybe it's better. I don't know. We're going to see. The X factor that I see is that KAMARU, if put on his back, doesn't offer the same or anywhere close to the same kind of threats that Gilbert Burns has. Having said that, though, his wrestling is at a higher level. Mario Gomez says, "What do you think? Who do you think has a punching power advantage, Kamaru or Hamzat? Also, who has a physical power advantage?" It's hard to say because I haven't seen Hamzat at 185. You know, I haven't seen him at 185 properly, where I can say this is what he looks like at 185. This is, you know, but I imagine that he's going to be the bigger guy in there. Just even if even if they look the same, or even if Kamaru looks bigger, Kamaru has not built his frame back up to be an 84 kilogram guy. He hasn't done that. He was, if anything, was going to fight at 77 kilos. So whilst he wrestled before at 84 kilograms and he's aware of that and he knows the physicality of it, so this is good for him, but it's still like he was cutting down to 77 kilos. He wouldn't be in his natural frame to be at 84. And whereas Hamzat has had more than a year or whatever it's been to be able to build himself up into a 185er, and he's a younger guy. So I don't know the actual things of that, but the physicality, I'd have to at this stage lean towards Hamzat. But that's without having seen either guy fight at 84 kilos. And that's the same thing, John Wayne, with the cardio and whatnot. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It can affect you, though, if you're used to fighting at 77 kilos and you haven't had time to train into that weight. It might be extra weight that Kamaru's not used to carrying in the cage. Beetlejuice says, Usman is coming off 2 losses. I feel Hamzat is just too hungry, too young, and too strong to allow Usman to get the W. I think that the age and the physicality and the momentum all favor Hamzat. And I think one of the best things that could have happened to Hamzat was the fight that he had with Gilbert Burns, because that's allowed him to test himself and to see certain things that he could work on. So that's probably one of the best things that could have happened to him, is have the adversity in that fight and then also be able to have the time to work on it, but also have carried off the win. So he's got the confidence from the win, but the experience from a hard fight. I think that's one of the best things that could have happened to him. Greatest Adventurer says, Hamzat knocked out battle-tested middleweight Meerschaert with 1 punch. He did, but I haven't seen Hamzat be at a natural 185, right? I haven't seen what that looks like. Meerschaert is a very he's a very reliable kind of gatekeeper for that top 15, but you know, he did, like you said, he caught him with 1 punch. I didn't get to see that fight play out. You know what I mean? I think Hamzat would beat Meerschaert, though. I don't think that's like the question here. You know what I mean? Like, I just haven't seen what his physicality will look like at 185. Cooper Marion says, thoughts on the corners throwing in the towel. Feel like Yanis took a lot of unnecessary damage, and I hate seeing corners send fighters out in one-way traffic while compromised. Yeah, I completely think that it should be normalized, to be honest with you, the calling of it. I think, though, there's a massive amount of pressure just from the, like, what they can earn and what they might earn if he does potentially win versus he doesn't win. Like, the discrepancy is huge, but I do agree that you should just call it. That's my opinion. All right, let's get cracking, Sammy.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, easy. So on this whole slide is just looking at Hamzat. On the left-hand side, we have his accuracy for all of his 6 wins in the UFC. Like, overall, obviously it's slightly skewed. You can see a lot of those bars go up to 100%. He's obviously, some of those ones he's actually not striking that many. So, you know, on average attempted per round, he's, you know, striking the legs at 1.2 average per round. He's throwing and he's landing at 100% of his accuracy and leg strikes, but he's obviously not throwing that many. And similarly with strikes in the clinch, and then leg strikes in the 2nd and 3rd round and that as well. So he's not a big leg kicker, but when he does, he connects 100% of the time.
And can I just say, that's one of the things that I do think you're going to see in this fight. I think he is going to chop at those legs of Kamaru a little bit. I do think that, just because Kamaru has, like, by reputation, has bad knees, and he does stand in a more traditional boxing stance, and he has been hit by those calf kicks before. Sorry, Sammy, if you want to continue.
It also is slightly skewed as well because he's only had 2 fights that have gone through to the second round. If we actually have a look at those in particular as well, and just in those that have actually gone through to the second round, obviously Gilbert Burns and then John Phillips in that second round as well. And then it's also the fact that he's submitted John Phillips as well in that second round, then also slightly skews it as well because he doesn't have that full round to actually complete all his strikes and everything else as well. So those kind of accuracy and average landed per round and things like that are slightly skewed because he finishes his opponent so early.
Hello, sorry, just answering a few of these questions here at the same time, and just jump in with what you see, Sammy, with the stats there. Somebody asked, do I agree that the winner should get, so Greatest Adventurer asked, do I agree with the winner getting the title? And the reality is you don't know if the winner's going to get the title. Like it was said, Dricus was going to get the title. I feel that Dricus is the clear-cut number one contender. That if we're going to talk just like who should get the title shot, it should be Dricus, in my opinion. I don't think you beat a perennial top fighter in someone like Robert Whittaker, who's always there right in the mix at the top, who could be a champion at any given day. You don't beat him and then fucking not get a title shot when he was the number one contender. So I do think it's Dricus. And this kind of brings new blood, though. I actually like the Usman mix in there. I think it is a good one, but I think that Dricus should get the title shot. James R says, what wrestling style translates best to MMA, and why is there only one style in the Olympics? Excuse my naivety. There's actually 2 styles of wrestling, which is Greco-Roman and freestyle wrestling. Freestyle, this is just a real quick thing. Freestyle, you can attack the whole body and you pin the person. There's also exposure, how you flip people. Greco-Roman is from the waist up. You can't attack the legs. So they're the 2 styles of wrestling that are in the Olympics. I think that it's not so much a style. I think depending on the population of people that you have practicing a given style is going to be the one that matters the most. So in the US, you have a lot of people that practice folk style, and there's aspects of each style that I think are really beneficial. And one of the big things with folk style is that they have the mat returns and the escapes, which I believe translates, in my opinion, the best because of that. But if you come from a country that's not what they practice, say in Russia, freestyle wrestling, that they have the best freestyle wrestlers. If you're a good freestyle wrestler in Russia, you're going to be fucking fine. So, and it's interesting because Kamaru is, so just to give I was talking about his wrestling before. So in his folk style wrestling, he was a national champion 3 times over, but he also was training at the United States Olympic Training Center in freestyle wrestling with the hopes of making the 2012 Olympic team. So he made the university world team in 2010, which is no mean feat in freestyle. And then he was trying for the 2012 Olympics. He didn't make it due to injuries and whatnot, but he didn't make it, but it doesn't matter. That's the kind of level wrestler he is. So he's no fucking joke as a wrestler. Nathan Gorman says, Darren Till says he expects Khamzat to ragdoll Usman. Do you think he said that because of Khamzat performances in the gym? Yeah, I mean, they're mates too. So fuck, you're going to say your mate's going to win, I'd hope. Yeah, I think folk style, in theory, would be in that regard is fantastic. But then, if you, like I said, if you come from a talent pool of like Russian wrestling, that it's such a massive talent pool, then that if you wrestle in Russia freestyle, you're going to be sweet. Sammy,
just look at the offensive components of Usman, and obviously 13 wins in the UFC and 2 losses. Obviously, he has fought a lot more, so in comparison in the UFC to Khamzat, so we have the stats are a lot more comprehensive. You can see on the left-hand side his accuracy. He actually increases his significant strike accuracy from round 1 to round 2 and then round 3. So he's actually, and then he's also landing a bit more as well. So he, normally in round one, on average, he's landing 17 significant strikes, 23, again 22 in the third round, and his accuracy actually increases as the fight progresses.
And that, I think, comes from the fact that he can wear people down. We're talking about Usman here, right?
Yep.
He can wear people down and hold them down, and he's generally the bigger guy, you know what I mean? He's generally the bigger guy in there, and he has a mechanical advantage as the longer guy. He's got good reach. I think he's got a 1 inch reach advantage over Khamzat as well, which shouldn't really matter too much. But I think that comes from the fact that he's striking, like I said, is mechanical. It's methodical though too. And so when he starts to wear you down and you now conscious of his wrestling and his feints, because he doesn't just feint like on this plane, like where he's going to strike, he feints down as well. Like so you don't see if he's feinting down for a double leg, and he shoots that single and that double leg so well, just the way he just grabs it. So he feints on that, then he throws that overhand right. And I think that just starts to wear people down, and that helps to do that helps to make his accuracy better as the rounds progress. Anything else, Sammy?
I just also kind of noticed the ground strikes and stuff too. So obviously, it's an important factor that is slightly overlooked, I think, in terms of the stats, just in the way that they calculate it. So that if they're ground strikes and clinch strikes, they have to be clean in order for them to be considered significant. But even in his ground strikes, round one, he's around about 86%. Does drop to 73 and 70% from round two and round three, but he's actually increasing his output of ground strikes in that as well. So in round one, he lands about 4.5 on average of 5. Round two, on average, he throws about 7, lands 5. So slightly, he's landing more, but also throwing more as the fight progresses too. So, and that's the reason for that slight decrease in the accuracy of his ground strikes as well.
And I think overwhelmingly, that's what he does. Like Usman just puts a pace and a pressure on you, coupled with his boxing and his wrestling, that makes and his physicality, like this, that triage of problems that he brings to you. It's very, very hard to keep you off him. But I've always thought that he wouldn't translate as well at 185 as he does at 77. At 77, he's always the bigger guy. He's able to bring that physicality and those weapons along with it, which makes him a very hard problem to solve. I think the big problem here, somebody wrote, Madara asked, how will the Chechen wrestling do against the American wrestling? I think it's got more to do with the individual. And in this scenario, I don't see him being able to press Khamzat back into the cage and fight that style of fight. I just don't see him being able to do that. And he doesn't generally do as well moving backwards as he does going forward at all. He doesn't have the same tools, and it's not the same pressure that he's used to fighting under. So in this scenario, I do think Chimaev is going to be able to move him back, and that's going to already start to make things difficult for Usman. Now, can Usman catch him with something? Of course he can. Of course he can hit him with a big right hand. He can like, I can see that happening, but I do not see Usman being able to hold Khamzat up against the cage and land that right hand to the spleen the way he does. Like he sags on that overhook and lands that right hand to the spleen. I just, that's a big part of Usman's game, just holding people there, being able to land that and tire him out and exhaust them and just keep on it. I just don't see him being able to do that. You know what I mean? I don't see him being able to do that to Khamzat, and I see Khamzat moving him back and either landing something on him or taking him down and just making life hell for him. I do see that happening. Sammy?
Just looking at the actual defense of Chimaev as well. So on the left-hand side, we've got the kind of defense percentage as well. Again, it's very skewed because round 2 and 3, he's only had 2 round 2s and only had 1 round 3. So it's, kind of missing a lot of those stats we'd have from a lot of the other fighters as well, just because he finishes these fights so early. But even in looking in that, he has a significant strike defense in that first round of 59%. It drops in round 2 and 3, but it's also skewed just because we have only those 2 data points from those fights.
And it was a dogfight with Gilbert Burns, really, that would have messed up his average that you'd see normally. Another person, he asked if Khamzat's DAS would be a problem for Kamaru. I don't think Kamaru, I'll answer Max Jamil and SGs at the same time. I don't think that's necessarily, you're not going to see Usman coming out shooting blast doubles and that. He actually never really does that. He just kind of reaches down for that single or then switches to a double leg through a body clinch. I see him counter wrestling Chimaev. That's different. I see him counter wrestling him. Not necessarily is he going to be out there shooting shots. So I can see him attempting the counter wrestling for sure. Ray Stone, the people's champ, the heart and soul of Redcliffe Dolphins. How are we? Even though Usman won't have any advantage attacking with grappling, do you think he will be good enough to defend it, enough to turn it into more of a striking fight? I think it's what I said. I think he's going to definitely, he's not going to just defend him. And he's definitely, he has got the grappling though. His grappling is high level. I just think that what's going to happen in this is he's going to try and wrestle him back. He's going to try and wrestle back. He can't capitulate that grappling because Usman is just going to, Khamzat, if you do that, he just keeps coming and you can't stop him. What you saw in the Gilbert Burns fight is a little bit different because Gilbert has a second and a third phase to his grappling, which is not just the wrestling. It's also his jiu-jitsu and the interactions in between, like when you're going backwards and forwards between the two. And Usman doesn't have the grappling, the jiu-jitsu off his back that Gilbert has, but he does have the better wrestling. So it's going to be interesting to see, Ray. I don't know if it'll necessarily be a striking fight if Usman can't keep him off him like at the start of it. If Chimaev can move Usman back towards the cage, I don't know that it'll be much of a striking fight necessarily because Usman's not great at striking when he's moving backwards. That's not his game. So yeah, SG says, what a great matchup on paper. No, absolutely. Very, very interesting one. Sammy?
Just the defense kind of aspect of Usman's game as well. So on the left-hand side, we've got the defense percentage. On the right-hand side, you've got the average defended per round and the average attempted per round by his opponents. So you can see that, significant strike defense, he's running at about, 50, 51%. And then in the third round, it actually increases to around 60%. But probably the key one there for this as well, and obviously for this fight too, is that takedown defense. So he runs about an 83% takedown defense in the first round and actually increases round 2 and 3 to 100%.
Yeah, there's not many people going to be taking him down. I mean, Leon did take him down and whatnot, but generally, no, not many people are going to get him down like that, which I do believe Khamzat can. Khamzat can take him down. Will he take him down? I don't know. Sammy, because we have 8 minutes left in this segment, is there any other important points that you want to touch on before we start getting ready to do the Volkanovski and Islam one?
Not in particular. I was just looking at that Gilbert Burns and Chimaev fight as well, but just overall. So I don't know if you wanted to look at
hit us. Well. Yes.
And just as the fight progressed, because it's obviously it's the closest that someone's come to, kind of testing Khamzat as well. So in that first round, there was, Khamzat had 27 significant strikes to Gilbert Burns' 18. And all of the, 15 of those were head strikes. So and compared to Burns' 11, there was one takedown from Chimaev. And then in terms of control, and that's clinch and on the ground as well, there was 104 seconds in that first round of control where he landed, 10 ground strikes as well.
I think, and it's an interesting fight too, that one. I think it is an interesting fight. I don't the Burns and Khamzat fight I'm talking about. I just don't think it's ironic because Usman beat Burns, but I just don't think that he has the same weapons that that Burns has that cause the same problems for. Sorry, I'm just going to look at the odds. Yeah, I don't think that he's going to have the same problems. I just don't. I can't see if, for example, if Khamzat hurts Usman on the feet in any of those exchanges, which he did with Burns, I do believe that he's just going to completely jump on him. I don't see him having to worry about the same kind of problems coming out of Usman that Burns could give him. SG says, if you're in Trevor Whitman's shoes after getting that call to fight Khamzat on short notice, what's the first aspect of the fight plan you would capitalize on? I don't think Trevor Whitman needs my help, but I don't know, because I think it's not even so much a fight plan at this stage. You got 10 days, same as Volkanovski. Like now it's actually pretty cool because in a way, both Volkanovski and Usman, they're very experienced guys. They're in the latter part of their career. And so the short camps are probably actually beneficial to them, as well as the fact that that they don't have to concentrate on a lot more, just get there, cut weight. That in itself is going to help them not to like hyper focus on the fight itself. So I think it's I'll just focus on getting the things done, like the steps to getting the things done to making sure we get to the fight, and talking about the fight a little bit. But I think at this stage, my opinion is wrestling back would be a big one. Like focusing on the things that you have to focus on, that's a big one, because that will take up a lot of time and it'll kind of keep your focus off the fight, which helps a lot of the time, especially with the amount of experience that someone like Usman or Volkanovski has. But then if I'm Usman, I'd be wrestling back. That would be the big thing. When you engage, he attacks you. Don't just capitulate, or he's not going to capitulate, but don't just defend. You want to defend and wrestle back. That's going to create a few more problems for Khamzat that he hasn't really seen other than Burns a little bit. So I think that's a big one. Semi, anything else?
Only looking at that same fight there with Gilbert Burns in that second round, it was really Burns' best. So he's obviously in that significant strike area. He's landed 56 compared to 37, so almost 20 more. And majority of those were to the head. Khamzat did get a takedown and did get about 10 seconds of control time in that round. But and all those strikes in those ground strikes in that round were also attributed to Burns instead of Khamzat as well. So he might have taken him down, but Burns was the one to actually hit him off the ground as well.
Yeah, he hit him from his back. I just don't see, again, like I said, I just don't see Usman having those tools the same way, and if he can get him down, he will. But it's going to be hard. It's not going to be that easy to get Usman down. All right. So in closing, who do you have, Sammy, and why?
I have Khamzat. Just in terms of, obviously, it's a bit hard when you actually look at the stats because he has only really been tested by Burns, and it's still a unanimous decision. But it's the only time it's gone to that third round. He obviously has that momentum. He's got 6 wins in the UFC and no losses. So I'm going to go with Khamzat on this one. So. And
what's the age difference there, just really quickly?
What are we looking at?
The age, Google. 36. No, 36, and I'll tell you, 36 and 29. That's big. You know what I mean? That's a big one. I think that it's just, like, long story short, the odds are minus 360. Favorite is Chimaev, and Usman is a plus 25 underdog. I don't know that it really warrants that much of a spread. I think that's a massive spread, to be honest with you. I think that Usman's fucking, he's legit, and he's only just lost there. People act like he's fucking, Anyways, having said all of that, I still pick I still pick Chimaev. I just don't think those odds are representative of what Usman can do. So I wouldn't be surprised if Usman does a lot better than people think, because those odds look like it's Chimaev versus me. You know what I mean? And it's not. Like in fairness to Usman lost a couple of minutes or a minute or 40 seconds or whatever it was, or 5 minutes or something of the first fight with Leon Edwards, where he lost the first round, won everything else, and then got knocked out in the last 40 seconds. This is what happened. And the second fight, he lost it. Like, he lost it clear. But, you know, that's not representative of his whole career or what the only things he can do. So, yeah, don't be surprised if the fight goes a distance, but my pick is Chimaev. All right, guys, thank you so much. Join us on the stream right now, for Volkanovski versus Islam. Thank you very much.